Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Connor Williams with the Opposition View, joined by Lewis Brown of City Extra. First of all, mate, how you doing?
Yeah, good man. Good. This is actually like the longest break we've had for a long time. We've had like 4 days off, man. So yeah, everyone's getting rested. The players are getting rested. Yeah, it's nice not to have a game every 2 days. I mean, it does get a bit hectic.
Yeah, I looked at your fixture list as well, and it gets a bit more hectic after this game.
Yeah, yeah, it does. This is like literally like it's a golden break for us. 4 days. You would have thought a 4 day break would have been as we'd all be like rejoicing in this break. But yeah, after today, it gets more hectic again. But it's what it is, when you're fighting on all fronts, you can't complain. I mean, it's a better place to be than where you are. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we take it. We take it.
Well, give us your thoughts on Man City this season. Obviously, gunning for that treble.
Mm, yeah. Been a bit of a weird season to be honest with you, because we started off quite well, and Haaland was firing, everything was going well, and then we had a little bit of a dip, especially after that World Cup. We had a bit of a dip. The football we were watching was terrible. Pep Guardiola wasn't happy. You know what I mean? We didn't look like scoring. We were weak defensively, and yeah, it just there wasn't like a feel good factor around the club, man. It was weird, and I know you guys are probably thinking, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" You know what I mean? Like you, especially where you guys are, but like it's weird, you know what I mean? We've just been used to everything's just been good, you know what I mean? And we went through a really rough time after the World Cup, and it wasn't good. And it took in the end Pep Guardiola coming out after a game. I think it was the Spurs game, and he just let loose, man. And he wasn't happy. He said, "I'm going to change players. I'm only going to play players that want to be here. Anyone that was moaning, not gonna be in." And it took a while. It took a while. Even after that, we weren't playing great. You know what I mean? Some of the players that were playing, like you look at the likes of Laporte, we all thought he probably should have been playing, but Pep decided to play players who actually wanted to be here, who was happy and contributing and not being negative around the club. And in the end, it's paid off. We've been on a fantastic run. I think it's like 24 matches unbeaten now. Scoring goals against great teams. Defensively, look pretty stable as well. And we've slowly got ourselves up there. We've clawed our way back into this Premier League race from Arsenal, because at one point it looked like they were running away with the league. As well with the Champions League, people thought, no way, City going to go and win it. We've got ourselves playing good football again. And we just look like a really solid team. So it does show that you can turn your season, your season can be going, one way, and then you can turn it around. But everyone has to pull in the same direction. And all credit to Pep Guardiola, man, because he's managed to get the players all fighting for it. And yeah, we're very close now to potentially winning a historic treble. Still a lot to do, of course, but it's certainly there for us if we want it.
Obviously, you mentioned Pep a bit, and you said that he wasn't. There have been times this season where he doesn't look happy. He's shot out of the press a couple of times as well. Give me your thoughts on him, because obviously he signed his extension in, I think it was November, wasn't it? So he's with you till 2025 at the earliest. He might go on beyond that, or he might go into international. I know that's been rumored, but give me your thoughts on him this season, because from the outside looking in, there were moments where I want to say cracks were forming, but he'd sort of lost his mojo a little bit. He didn't look, lost his smile almost.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that goes back to what I was just saying about that the players weren't fighting for it. And he said, I think after one game, he said, "These are not my players. I don't recognize them." So I think his frustration and his sort of like anger and stuff came from, I don't know what the players are doing, but for me, is the best manager in this country, and probably the world by far. He's an elite level manager. He's up there with Sir Alex Ferguson as some of the best managers of all time. And yeah, you got to give him credit for the way he's turned it around, because people can say, "Oh yeah, he's got the players, he's got the money." There's a lot of other clubs in Europe that have spent a lot of money and have not done as successful as Pep Guardiola. So it's not all about money. You could also argue that with money comes issues, because you get the issues that we've had this season where players are not happy that they're on the bench, and you have to manage that. You look at Chelsea, look at their mess that they're in. They've spent 600 million quid, you know what I mean, in a year, and look at the state of them. So he's done a remarkable job, and we're, like I say, we're on for a historic season, and we just need to keep pushing. It's difficult because our players are knackered. Like you can tell when we're playing matches that the players just look so tired, especially as the game goes on. You get to like 60 minutes, 70 minutes. You got players like Gundogan, who's 32, that's played the most minutes he's played in the last 4 seasons. And we've still got 7 games potentially left of the season. So It's how he manages that. And of course, we've got Everton coming up, as obviously, Ramon here, at the weekend, a game that he has to rotate a little bit because we've got Real Madrid coming up. We can't afford to play the same team as we did against Real Madrid against Everton and then play the same team against Real Madrid again in the second leg. We will just collapse on the floor if we do that. So he has to make changes against Everton. It's a risk, clearly, because you want to be going to Everton with your full-strength squad, full-strength team. We're not going to be able to do that because he's going to have to change it. But again, this is what great managers do. They find a way of getting the 3 points. Regardless of how we do it, we've got to go to Goodison and get the win. And that will be largely down to how Pep Guardiola manages the team, manages the squad, and rotates the players.
So you've mentioned obviously Everton there, hence why you're on the show. Give me your thoughts on what you've, from an outsider's view looking in. It's always good to have, outside the fishbowl looking in view. What do you think of Everton this season?
Doesn't surprise me at all. I think I was on this very channel at the beginning of the season. I think the decision to keep Frank Lampard was an absolute disaster. I called it at the time. Frank Lampard, for me, is a manager, that needs to go into a team that's playing well, that's playing the style of football that he wants, and he can go in there and then try and improve them. He's not a manager for me that can go into a relegation-threatened team and make them improve. I just don't think he's that type of manager. So I said in the summer, I just think it's the wrong decision. I think the decision not to go out and buy a proper striker, was criminal. You know what I mean? Because DCL, for as good as he might be, guy's never fit. I still have question marks about is he actually that good? You know what I mean? And his long-term potential. You bought Neal Maupay, which I just think is who is buying these players. You know what I mean? What? Like, I'm not being funny here. I don't watch much Everton. Yeah, I'm a City fan. I watch City, and then I watch Premier League, like most people do. If it's on TV at the weekend, I got nothing. I'll watch it. Yeah. Last season, they were crying out for a striker. And you went and bought Neal Maupay. I just think whoever made that decision just needs to be sacked from the club and never work in football again. It's an absolute joke that Everton didn't buy a striker. Now, some of the other signings, obviously, you've got good players in there. They do have fundamentally, I believe, a decent team. But there's no surprise to me that they're down there in the relegation battle because they didn't go out. You've got to get goals in this division. You know that. Your viewers know that. Everyone knows it. You've got to get goals. And you look at Everton and you just think, where are the goals coming from? DCL had one good season, yeah. When you look at his stats, he had a great season. I think he scored 17 or 18 goals in a single season. Other than that, it's a bit hit and miss. He's never fit. And like I say, the decision to sign Maupay for 9 million quid, I mean, Brighton must have been laughing their heads off when they got that through because it's just a joke. So for me, I just think it all comes down to the board. I think it all comes down to the board, which I know you guys are, I've had your issues, protests I've seen, kicking off outside. And I think you're well within your rights because for me, this whole situation where Everton are now is solely down to the board. Not getting a new manager in the summer. Lampard should have been gone. And the transfer strategy, I think it's all solely down to the board. I really, really do. For me, I think what I said was when I come on the show in the summer, and we had a little bit of a preview about Everton. I said, for me, Everton need to accept that where they were at the end of last season, you need to get a manager in that's just going to get you away from that relegation zone. And it won't be pretty. You're going to have to get a manager in that plays not nice football, whether that's a Big Sam, whether it's a Sean Dyche, and maybe Everton fans didn't want to accept that because they wanted to see the nice football. But I said, get a manager in that's going to take Everton Football Club away from that relegation zone and work their way back up towards mid-table. And then in 2 to 3 years, when Everton have got a solid team and not a club that's going to be in danger of getting relegated, then pull the trigger. Then say, okay, thanks to Big Sam, thanks to Sean Dyche, thanks to whoever it is that gets you away, we're now going to go and get the Lampard style of manager who's going to play nicer football. You can't do that from a relegation threatened team. You just can't. It never works. So it's all down to the board. I think Everton fans are well within their rights to protest, to kick off, to give their abuse towards the board because it's all their fault. It's all their fault. It's not Lampard's fault because he was out of his depth. He shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's not the players' fault. You know what I mean? From what I've seen, you may say that they don't work hard enough, whatever. I don't see, I can't say that because I've not seen them enough. And it's not the fans' fault. It's all down to the board. And I say that, you look at, and it's not just Everton. You look at other clubs in the league. Why City do so well? Why? Because you never hear a peep from the board. You never hear from our owner. You never hear from our thing. Now, of course, we've got a big investigation on. We'll see what happens with that. But it's all about the players. It's all about the manager. You look at United, they're having protests every week about the Glazers, Liverpool with FSG, Arsenal's calmed down a little bit with the Kroenkes, but they're still not happy with that Edu. Tottenham with Levy. It's no surprise that City have been the most successful club over the last 5-6 years because we've had the most stable board, the board that you don't hear from. So it's all about the board and Everton for me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me what's going on with the board, but it's all their fault. For me, there's no other way to put it. It is all their fault.
Well, it's great to. I was going to say, I agree. Firstly, I agree with everything, and a lot of our fans would do as well. It's just great to see that we're not the only ones. Sometimes it's just your club. Outside clubs could be a bit like a little bit funny. Sometimes fans like what they're moaning for, but it's glad to see that this is, sort of outside of our club. People are starting to go, yeah, it's not quite right. I think that the board are just stuck in an archaic era, which football is soon left behind. Almost like a vibes and good. Not the personality does matter in football, but it's almost like are they a good lad? Did they used to play for us? Do they have an emotional connection? Get them in. Which is, when you think about it, it's something City, for example, do so well. I watched the clip the other day of Pep telling Fernandinho his career at City sort of at its end. And I just thought that's the way to run it. Once they reach a certain age and their legs don't look like they can do it, nicely, politely, with a human, heart as well. Just tell them, I think it's time to move on. Really mature way to run a football club, which is down to Pep. When he was talking to him, it came across as really nice as well and sincere. So, yeah, I guess there's a lot to learn here. But
you look down, my friend. You know what I mean? You look like you're so down, man, and it's kind of crazy, man, because you look at Everton over the last 5 or 6 years. There has been money spent there. So why? And I know that go net spend is not as high as maybe you'd like, but there's been money spent on the football club. You got a couple of good players there, like Onana. I think is a great player. I don't know how maybe is he not doing as well as when he first came out. I don't know, but I think he's a top player with the right manager. He can do bits. You got England's #1 goalkeeper there. You got some decent defensive players. But another one that I didn't get, Dwight McNeil. I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know football's not all about goals and assists, right? But I like to think when you're an attacking player, you do have to get some goals. And look at his numbers from when he was at Burnley. They're appalling. You know what I mean? And yeah, he works hard. He plays for the badge. He runs around, and you got to get numbers in this game. You got to win football matches. You don't have no players that can win football matches. You know what I mean? You get Dwight McNeil who never scores or gets assists. You got Neil Mopai, who's neither use nor ornament. Calvert-Lewin's never fit. And I just think, again, it just all goes back to the transfer strategy for me. If I was at Everton last season, I would have gone out, got all guns for a striker. Ollie Watkins, could you have got him in? Could you maybe have got Callum Wilson in from Newcastle with Isaac being their sort of #1? There's plenty of strikers in England that wouldn't have cost an arm and a leg. You're talking 15-20 million for some of these players. And you wouldn't be, I can categorically confirm it, you would not be where you are if you would have bought a proper striker. So yeah, the board at Everton are just a laughing stock, honestly. It's crazy. It's mad to see what they've done. Now, having said that, I do think you'll be fine. I do think you'll stay up. Because with the fixtures you've got the last 2 games, I do think you'll win at least one of them. And I think 35 points, I think, will probably be enough. But this isn't good enough for Everton. When Everton stay up, which I do think they do, the fans need to be getting onto the board, man, and just like, this isn't good enough. Everton Football Club should not be in a relegation scrap. So I hope you all, carry on with whatever you're doing. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of what's happening at Everton, but it's not good enough, man.
No, yeah, I fully agree, mate. And I think once the summer hits and we're safe, I think we're going to see quite the protest ramped up. Give me your thoughts on Sean Dyche as he's come in his reign as Everton manager.
Disappointed, actually. I remember when he first got appointed, I was like, boom, they're going to be chilling. See you later, no problem, Everton. And you know what it was, actually? I got a red flag in, I think it was his second game. Was his second game Anfield, Liverpool away? Or was that the first game? It was one of the first games.
I think it was one of his second ones.
Yeah, I think it must have been his second game. And Liverpool were awful at that point. And I was thinking, go there, shithouse it, get a point. And I watched the game. And Everton tried to play a little bit of football. And I thought, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? You're here to keep this team out of the relegation. And so I got a bit of a red flag straight away because that wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting Sean Dyche to go there, shithouse it a little bit, get a point, get out. accept that, yeah, you know what I mean? I wish we could go there and play football, but we can't. So I got a bit of a red flag, and that's the way it's gone. You know what I mean? Everton have not done as well as I thought. In fact, they've done really poor under Sean Dyche. Now, clearly, over the last couple of weeks, you've been getting a few results here or there, a couple of draws, a win, but yeah, it's disappointed me. And yeah, well, what more can I say? It's just it's not gone as I would have thought. You know, it's just not done what I expected him to do. So yeah, on the whole, I'll probably give him like a 6 out of 10. Really, really not as good as I expected, man.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit an up and down. I think obviously he came in at like during his first game was that Arsenal one, which was incredible. But like you said, Liverpool was literally the next game, sort of. I think he's had a bit of an upper and a downer. I think he's better than Frank Lampard. Don't get me wrong, but
Correct.
I think
You'd be
he's sort.
relegated under Frank Lampard, in my opinion.
Oh, I think we'd have been down with Southampton at this point, looking like we're gone. I think his biggest problem, I think, with us was he's loyal. I'll say this about him: he's very loyal, especially to Michael Keane, who's not a very good centre back. We subbed him out for the Brighton game the other day for Yerry Mina and won 5-1, which I think is against Brighton is very very good because they had a lot of attacking chances. Pickford played well. So I'm hoping that's sort of taught him a lesson. But yeah, I think Deitch is one of those Everton fans expected a little bit better.
I'd stick with
And
him though for next season. I
oh
don't
yeah,
think his I think because this is what I was saying in the summer. You need a manager like that who's just going to take you away from the relegation zone, and it's not all going to be pretty. Some of the football you might watch will be a bit dead and a bit shit, but ultimately you'd rather be 14th, 13th, and away from safety and playing a bit shit football than playing, you know, in the relegation scrap and fearing for your club survival. You know what I mean? So if for me, I just keep Deitch because I think next season with a transfer window under his belt, I think he'll get you away from that relegation zone. I would imagine, and you know you'll probably finish between I don't know 15th and 9th, somewhere in that sort of region, away from the relegation zone. Maybe do one more year after that, solidify, have another transfer window, and then as I said at the start of this video, in what 2025, 2026, whatever it is, when you Everton are back to being a mid-table club, say okay, we're away from safe. Let's now go and bring that manager in who can then maybe try and play us a little bit better football and get us up the league and play better football. That's how you have to do it. You have to have a plan. You know what I mean? And a lot of these clubs don't have a plan. They just wing it, mate. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'd do if I was the Everton board manager, man. I'd just set a plan in target. The first thing I'd be doing in the summer is signing a striker. You've got to have a difficult conversation with some of these players, if you said, too loyal. I think Calvert-Lewin, you need to have a serious look at and think, if it was me, I'd let him leave. I would let him. You can't keep having him around and thinking, oh, this is the year that he really kicks on. I mean, how long has it been, man? Get rid of him. Go and get another striker who's fit, who can score goals, and move on. You got to be ruthless with some of these players, man.
yeah, I agree. There's a couple of passengers who've seen off about 5 managers, which in itself is a damning statement. Back onto City now. This one's going to be a tough one. Give us your best player of this season so far.
I mean, you know the answer to that one, man. You know the answer to that one. Yeah, Haaland is incredible. He really, really is. You know, what I mean, his movement in the penalty area is something that I've not actually seen from anyone I've ever watched. It's unbelievable. It's the type of movement that you expect from a striker when I always use this comparison. When you see a striker when they lose the pace when they're like 33, 34, but then suddenly they continue scoring goals or sometimes get even better. It's because what they do is when they've lost the pace, they realize that now they have to work on the movement inside the penalty area because they don't have that blistering pace anymore. And they end up scoring goals. He's already got that movement at 22 years old. He's got pace. He's strong. You know what I mean? He's just he's a freak of a player, and yeah, he's really catapulted us this season. Without him, we'd be in serious trouble. A player though that I always like to speak about because he never gets the full credit he deserves. I think for me, he's been the most consistent defender in the Prem. It's Nathan Ake. I mean, we signed him for 40 million quid when Bournemouth went down, and it was seen as a player that was going to be a squad rotational player. But this season, he's been our best defender. He's been bar Erling Haaland, probably our second best player. Now, Kevin De Bruyne's having a late push at that trophy, but he's been absolutely magnificent and he's not put a foot wrong all season. For me personally, I think he's been the best defender in the Premier League this season consistently. Better than Saliba, better than Gabriel for me. And yeah, he just deserves his flowers, man, because like I say, he come in for 40 million and he's exceeded our expectations. He was going to leave in the summer. He was going to go to Chelsea. And then they got Koulibaly, and I don't know exactly what happened, where he decided he didn't want to go there, or whether Chelsea pulled out. But thank God he did, because without him, we would be seriously weaker without him. He's been fantastic. He really has.
Yeah, I'm glad he's playing well as well. I think the injuries that you've had in Diaz, Laporte, and stuff have helped with him. He's almost playing left back for you now, though, isn't he? And that free
Yeah.
sort of shifts over
Mm.
to the left, which is a really good place for him to be. This one genuinely now might be a little bit tougher. Give us your worst player for City this season. Obviously, during that purple patch, there must have been a one or two.
Um, really difficult to say. I don't think a worst player implies that they play all the time and continually play bad, but that doesn't happen at City. You play bad, you don't play. Some disappointments. Sergio Gomez, we brought him in for 10 million quid. Not good enough for the Premier League, unfortunately. Calvin Phillips has not played 600 minutes of football for us. Yeah, not sure what's going on there. Disappointing signing. I was never a fan of the signing anyway, but yeah, it's not really kicked on. Laporte's not managed to get himself into the team. That's probably a slight disappointment. Yeah, Phil Foden had a quiet start to the season, then started playing really well, and then unfortunately had his appendix out and then struggled to get back into the team again. Yeah, difficult to say worse, mate. You know what I mean? We're fighting for a treble, so
Yeah,
difficult to say worst player.
yeah. Nail on the head was when you're like, oh well, if they're worse, they don't play, which is which is fair enough. I don't very rarely see a City player have a stinker and then see him in the lineup next week. So
Exactly, yeah.
danger man for City. I assume you're going to say Erling Haaland, record breaker.
Yeah. But I think he's going to make some changes. I think Phil Foden is probably going to come in. I would expect Phil Foden and Mahrez both to start this game, and I'm actually happy with that, because that's our most prolific front three: Foden, Haaland, and Mahrez. If you go off goals and assists, that's our most prolific front three. So Mahrez is a fantastic player. Honestly, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the country. You watch his touch, first of all, it's exquisite. And he gets goals and he gets numbers. So he's a great player. Foden will probably come back in. He's going to be raring to go. Alvarez could start the game as well. He's another fantastic player that the whole of Europe seemingly missed when we signed him from River Plate for 15 million quid. Can you believe that? So yeah, we've got a lot of talent on there. Yeah, pick anyone really. But yeah, anyone in that sort of front five.
As you say, as an Everton fan, there's about 5-6 players that I'm like, oh, slipping out.
Well, it shows you though that our scouting network is amazing. You look at Alvarez, 20 million, 15 million, whatever it was. We signed Akanji from Borussia Dortmund for 15 million. And remember, that signing was like with 1 or 2 days left of the transfer window. So it wasn't like a signing that other clubs gone, well, we couldn't have got him because he was going to City. No, City just decided to get him late on because it was 15 million quid, and he's been absolutely brilliant for us this season. So again, it shows that the scouting system at City's working. You don't have to spend £100 million all the time. Alvarez, 20 million, Akanji, 15 million. We got Ake out of Bournemouth for 40 million. These are all players that teams in the mid-table, bottom half of the table probably could have got. You look at Alvarez. I remember David Moyes saying West Ham could have signed Alvarez, but they decided that Antonio was better, so they never got him. He's a World Cup winner. He's a fantastic player. He can play in the 8. He can play centre forward. He can play on the wing. Do you know what I mean? So something, it says something about City's scouting network and faith in their scouts that we can get these players in. Yeah, of course. I'm not gonna pretend we don't. We do spend money like 60 million, 70 million on top players, but we can also go to the lower end of the market and pick these players up. Akanji's played every single game of the season. 15 million quid. What a signing. Pound for pound, one of the best signings in the Premier League this season. So, you've got to trust your scouts. You've got to get a good scouting network in there. And if you think about you sound Neil Mopai for 9 million, and we got Alvarez for what, 15, 20?
Yeah,
come on.
It blows your mind. I think the biggest when you're on about West Ham and Alvarez is there's a story that came out. It was during Fatma Shiri's first couple of years' reign. And we actually looked at Haaland, and there's photos of him having sort of trials at Finch Farm. And he said he didn't want to spend the money on a lad that young from Norway that nobody knew. And it's
goes back to what I was just saying. You've got to trust your scouting network. If you employ scouts and then your scout comes to you and says, "Hey, got this kid. He's only 18, 19, but I'm telling you, you've got to spend the money." Well, if you don't sign it, what's the point in having the scout? You've got to. You might as well say, "I'm not paying you wages anymore because I'm not going to go with what you're saying." if you pay a scout, and I know, of course, it's a little bit more to it than that, but if a scout comes to you and says, look, and Haaland, mate, I mean, he was staring you in the face. He scored goals all through his youth. He's scoring 20, 30 goals a season all through his youth. You know, I've seen that story, man, and you must feel sick, you know. You see that all the time with Arsenal. You remember Arsene Wenger when he could have signed like Messi, Yaya Toure, there's Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he never signed any of them. Like it was like a new player would come out every week. Everyone trained with Arsenal when we were a kid, and he just said no to pretty much them all. It's crazy, man.
Honestly, it does. It makes you feel really sick. So you've mentioned that you think he's going to rotate. And like I said, I looked at your fixtures coming up and the gaps in between your next couple of games after this, Real Madrid being the big one at the Etihad. I did say in our preview, I think he's going to rotate. So give us what you think is going to be the likely lineup from Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, so there is a chance that Ortega could start because he did actually drop Ederson and rested him for Ortega a couple of weeks ago. That again, great signing, free transfer. Honestly, he's such a great goalkeeper. I have no problems. If we got to the Champions League final and Ederson was injured, I wouldn't be asked, you know what I mean? Because Ortega's fantastic. I think he's made one mistake all season. But other than that, shot stopping, brilliant. Distribution, brilliant. Free transfer. So there is a chance Ortega could play. I don't think he will, though. I think it'll be Ederson in goal. Defense, we're less able to rotate because we don't have any fullbacks. You know what I mean? Again, I love it when people talk a lot about our depth. We have one fullback at the club in Kyle Walker. I just don't see him starting Rico Lewis. I think the defense will be Kyle Walker. Stones will probably play. Diaz will have to play, and then I think Akanji will probably play left back because I don't know if Ake's fit. At the time of recording, the press conference hasn't happened yet. He'll let us know about Ake, so I don't think he'll be available. So I don't think he can really rotate at defense because we don't have any cover there. Midfield will have to be Rodri because Calvin Phillips ain't playing for us again this season. For midfield, this is what I'd do, and I think this is what he could do. I would rest Gundogan because he looks knackered. I'd play Kevin De Bruyne, Alvarez, Mahrez, Haaland, Foden, and that is where we are a little bit stronger, you know. But yeah, defense we can't rotate the defense. We don't have enough cover there. So still a great team, of course.
I was going to say, yeah, still sweating a bit over it.
yeah. So I'm happy with that team. It's a fantastic team. The front three, like I say, is our most prolific front three. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they can do it. And Phil Foden as well. It was a shame because he was a player that. So he was playing really poor. Like he wasn't taking players on. I remember we went to Anfield, right? He played up against James Milner. James Milner played right back. Was like, boom, Phil Foden could get him. He never took the player on. It was weird, and he wasn't doing anything when he got the ball. Anyway, went to the World Cup, come back from the World Cup, had a couple of weeks, started playing really well, and then we was all like, this is the Phil Foden we love. He was scoring goals, he was taking players on, and then he come out in an interview and said, yeah, I was carrying an injury in my foot for months, and basically I had pain every time basically I moved. I had pain, so that explained it. He started playing really, really well, and then he had to have his appendix out, so that was another 4 or 5 weeks on the sideline. So a little bit of a shame, but he'll be back in. I think Mahrez will be back in, and just get the 3 points, because I think if we win at the weekend, I think we win the league. You know, I just think yeah, it'll be done if we win this weekend.
Well, coincidentally, that leads. I was going to ask for your score prediction first. What do you reckon the score will be?
I'm worried. You know what's mad? I'm more worried for this game than I was Real Madrid in the midweek. Genuinely, mate. Genuinely, because Madrid, there's 2 legs. You can lose 1-0 against Madrid in the first leg. It's not a major issue. You can still go. I'm seriously worried about it. You guys are scrapping to stay in a division. A point is a great point for you, so it wouldn't surprise me if you just went full shithouse mode and just, you know, defended for their lives. You know, there's no need for him to go out there and attack. A point would be a great point. Puts you on 33 points. I think Leeds will get beat. I think Leicester will get beat. You'll be 3 points clear with 2 games to go. So I'm seriously worried. Any win, mate, I'll take a 1-0 right now. Hand of Rod, you know what I mean? Give us that shit penalty again, and or whatever it was. I'm taking it, mate, because seriously, I just want to get in and get out. I'll take a 1-0. See you later.
Well, you might have already answered my last question before you go. It's who will win the league?
I think if City win the game at Everton, I think we'll win the league, because we'll be in a great position. We'll have 3 games left. We could win 1, draw 2. We'll win on goal difference, or you win 2, lose 1. You know what I mean? We'll be in a great position. The problem is if we drop points, if we lose against Everton, which I don't think we'll lose. I could see us drawing the game, you know what I mean? Because we do look knackered and Everton are fighting for their lives, and ultimately Dyche can get the team set up well. If we draw, it's not a major issue. because that just means we have to win 2, draw 1. And we've got Chelsea at home. I think we'll beat Chelsea. That means Brighton away, Brentford away, which are tricky. You got to win 1 and draw 1, right? So I still think that's doable. And I still would fancy my odds. If we lose, we have to win all 3. That's on the basis that Arsenal win their final 3 games. Again, we can still do it, but that is tough, and Arsenal got easier fixtures. If we win, as I said, we've got to win 1, draw 2. I think that I don't see City. We've been in this position many times before. I don't see City balls in that one up, you know. Because I think we'll beat Chelsea. Arguably, I think Chelsea's our easiest game out of the final 4.
Yeah,
genuinely, because they're just they're just there. They ain't got nothing to play for. They're on the beaches. It's at the Etihad. So yeah, I think that's probably the easiest game. So yeah, win at Everton, and I won't have the champagne out, but I don't know, man. I might get a prosecco. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that is all my questions, mate. I just want to say thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, no worries, man. Glad to come on, and good luck, man, to Everton, because top club, you know what I mean. And I've got a few Everton friends, man. So and ultimately, the reason I want Everton to stay in the division more than anything is because this is all just down to the board, and I hate it when boards fuck up clubs. You know what I mean? If they've got a good manager, you know what I mean, and like if you look at Leicester, for example. Leicester shouldn't be in the relegation zone. I know they've not spent a lot of money, but that team should not be in the relegation zone. So you look at Brendan Rodgers and go, that's your fault. The only reason look at Southampton, they went for a youth project, failed. That's the board's fault. You could say the same again for Leeds, but for Everton, you know, this is all down to the board, man. It's as simple as that. It's as simple. If you want me to become director of football at Goodison, give us a call. I'll come down, you know what I mean? I'll get you a striker in who can score goals and who's not injured. You know what I mean? I'll get you a manager. In fact, we'll keep Sean Dyche for a couple of years. Then maybe 2025, 2026, road to European football. We'll get some Spanish manager in who can play nice tiki-taka football, and we'll kick on, man. We'll have a great time. So give us a bell, yeah?
Yeah, no worries, mate. Don't forget, guys, to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below, and go and check out City Extra and Lewis as well. Their links will be in the description as always, and I'll see you guys very soon.